a piece on gratitude. Nietzsche says this. He says, for happiness, how little suffices for happiness. The least thing precisely, the gentlest thing, the lightest thing, a lizard's rustling, a breath, a whisk, an eye glance. Little maketh up the best happiness. Be still. So we begin to sense this possibility of becoming more present and taking in with a sense of gratitude, appreciating. Some of you might remember from, I love this part of, from The Color Purple. This is Alice Walker. And she's saying, listen, she writes this, listen, God loved everything you love and a mess of stuff you don't, but more than anything else, God loved admiration. You saying God vain, I ask? No, she says, not vain, just wanting to share a good thing. I think it pisses God off if you walk by the color purple in a field somewhere and don't notice it. Isn't that great? Yeah. So we begin this practice of really waking up our hearts and minds with the sense of being available to take in the beauty and appreciating the beings around us and the nature, and practicing on purpose, giving out. So we're going to practice together a guided reflection that I love on this, a very simple one. But I'd like to ask first if you will just quietly stand. Let's start with that. And if you can move a little bit so you're not right on top of another person, just use a little bit of space. And close your eyes and feel your body and sense how your body wants to move right now to be more awake and alert and relaxed and open. For some of you, you might feel like stretching your arms up is helpful. Breathing deeply, inhaling, letting the arms float down slowly. For some of you, it may be rolling your shoulders some or turning the head gently from side to side. Some of you may want to stretch your legs, but take a moment because really generosity and gratitude require embodiment, being awake in our bodies, to breathe and move. And don't be shy. Go ahead and just move around a little. Okay, and as you're ready to take your seat, sit in a way that you can be alert and at ease. This is a heart practice on gratitude, breathing in, letting ourselves be touched by the goodness of others, the goodness of this world, and breathing out, and sensing how we can express our love in a generous way. We begin in a simple way with gratitude by simply bringing to mind someone who has been a benefactor in some way, who has been generous with us, kind to us. And as you bring this person to mind, and it could be somebody very personal and close in your life. For some people, benefactor might be somebody even you don't know, but you feel a sense of appreciation that that person's helping. Take a moment to imagine and sense the person's presence. You might even imagine and visualize, look in that being's eyes as they look at you and with affection, with care. And sense that you can really let in the goodness, the good heart. The light, the purity of this being. You might whisper the person's name and say thank you. Just whisper out loud. Don't worry about other people, they'll be whispering too. Just whisper the person's name and say thank you. And you might do it a few times and notice what happens inside you. Notice the sense of connection and tenderness and sincerity that comes when you feel your gratitude and express it. Mary Oliver writes, so every day, I was surrounded by the beautiful crying forth of the ideas of God, one of which was you. So we feel that sense of gratitude as a lived experience in our hearts. And then we sense into generosity. And here I invite you to bring to mind one relationship that really matters to you, that you'd like to nourish, that you'd like to deepen, that you'd like to bring that spirit of generosity alive in. And when you decide on a relationship, you might sense what thus far has gotten in the way. In other words, what habit of being, what kind of ways of behaving have stopped you from being as generous as you'd like to have been? Has there been some agenda that's distracted you? Maybe you were distracted by the pressures of doing other things. Feeling there's too much to do, the demands of time. Or was your generosity blocked by some agenda that you were wanting that person to be different? Something you want from that person? Some affirmation or acknowledgement that stopped you from being as generous as possible? So just see if you can notice without judging what might have thus far gotten in the way of generosity. Is there a fear that if you offer more, you'll be obliged to keep offering more, that in some way it'll be too much? This honest investigation of what gets in the way, what creates separation, and holding what you see with real kindness, no judgment, just compassion. If you notice fears of offering more to someone, see what happens if you just extend kindness to that part of you that's afraid. What happens? A real forgiving towards whatever's been holding you back. Keep in mind that any judgment of yourself for not being generous will only fuel the parts of you that have a hard time extending. So real forgiving, real kind. And as you continue to pay attention, be curious as to what particular ways you might extend your heart to this person. What would be a flavor of generosity that would feel natural and good to you? You might plan it in your mind. Just some act of kindness, of giving. For many, the most powerful is saying, I love you, to the person. That is an act of kindness, of generosity. Or it might be affirming them in some way, letting them know that you see them, that you see their goodness. Or it might be an act of service. It might be a gift. Whatever you sense might be your way of generosity, imagine how it will land. What will it be like for that person? Imagine how it will land, imagining the life of another, and letting yourself feel the goodness of giving. Just feel it as sensations in your body and your heart, the goodness of giving. You might sense, who are you when you're in that flow of generosity? And then widening your view now to include more and more beings in your life, just sensing their goodness, sensing your wish, your prayer for their well-being. So you're extending that generosity through prayer to a widening circle of beings. And we can together bring our hearts together to sense that boundless heart space that really includes all beings. And this generosity and love that wishes all beings the blessings of realizing loving presence as their very essence. Wishing for all beings that realization that we can live from loving presence, serve and celebrate from loving presence. That all beings discover a great and natural peace. Feeling our shared prayer that all beings everywhere awaken and be free. Namaste and blessings, and thank you for your presence.